Aloha! Hey everybody, it's Sam Taylor, Cancer Cure Bus. Still filming here in the beautiful island of Maui, Hawaii. We're on episode 24. The definition of a Bee-Hag. As you recall, last episode I talked about my favorite business author, Jim Collins, a couple of books that he's written. One of the early books he wrote is this book, Built to Last. And there's a concept in this book that I want to talk about today. It's the principle of a Bee-Hag. What is a Bee-Hag? Bee-Hag is an acronym, BHAG. It stands for Big Hairy Audacious Goal. And in the book Built to Last, Jim Collins talks about how organizations, companies, can use Bee-Hags as an effective mechanism to bring about progress, to stimulate progress. And that's what I want to talk about is a Bee-Hag to cure cancer. So, a couple characteristics of a Bee-Hag. First of all, a Bee-Hag is clear and compelling. It's a very clear goal, compelling. It can serve as a focal point for an organization. It can serve as a catalyst for team spirit. A Bee-Hag has a finish line, so the organization knows when it has completed its goal. So there's a clear finish line. People like to shoot for a finish line. So those are some of the characteristics of a Bee-Hag. The best example of a Bee-Hag is probably John F. Kennedy's Moonshot Bee-Hag that he delivered in a speech to Congress in 1961, May 1961. Think back to those days. 1961, the U.S. was in the middle of the Cold War with the Soviet Union. The United States, we were losing the space race to the Soviet Union. It was a scary time for the United States. And President Kennedy decided he needed to put out a Bee-Hag to get us back on track where we needed to be in terms of a leadership position in space exploration. So let's take a look at an excerpt from that 1961 speech to Congress from President John F. Kennedy.
Now it is time to take longer strides. Time for a great new American enterprise. Time for this nation to take a clearly leading role in space achievement, which in many ways may hold the key to our future on Earth. I believe we possess all the resources and talents necessary, but the facts of the matter are that we have never made the national decisions or marshaled the national resources required for such leadership. We have never specified long-range goals on an urgent time schedule or managed our resources and our time so as to ensure their fulfillment. I therefore ask the Congress, above and beyond the increases I have earlier requested for space activities, to provide the funds which are needed to meet the following national goals. First, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish.
So Kennedy's Bee-Hag was, in 1961 he said this, that by the end of the decade, before the end of the decade, we would land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. People thought he was crazy at the time. We were nowhere near being able to accomplish anything like that. It was a true Bee-Hag. It seemed impossible. But guess what? In July 1969, just a little over 8 years after he laid out his Bee-Hag, Apollo 11 landed the first men on the moon to then safely return them to Earth before the end of the decade. The Bee-Hag was accomplished. And it reestablished the United States as a leadership in space exploration. And there are all kinds of amazing technology and science breakthroughs that came out of that Apollo 11 mission. So that is probably the best example of a Be-Hag. So when you listen to that speech by Kennedy, he talks about going to the moon. Think about if you replace the going to the moon to curing cancer. Watch that speech again. And every time he talks about going to the moon, insert curing cancer. And that's what this is about. It's going to take that kind of effort, but it is possible, just like it was back in the 60s. That's what we're embarking on in terms of finding a cure for cancer. And I'll talk a little bit later about there are a couple Be-Hags, quote-unquote Be-Hags out there. We'll talk about that in an upcoming episode and compare Be-Hags. But I've got a Be-Hag to cure cancer, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode. So once again, Cancer Warriors, the message is the same. Keep your faith. Stay strong. You will find peace. You will emerge victorious. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.